Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes history is not written with ink. It is carved with courage, and courage, my friends, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it flies through the sky like a missile, carrying not just firepower, but a nation's message to the world. There was a time when Iran was cornered. Sanctions, threats, isolation, propaganda. The walls were closing in. The world saw it as defiant. Some saw it as dangerous. But very few saw what was behind that defiance. A wounded dignity longing to stand, to breathe, to speak. And then it happened, one missile, just one, but it wasn't about destruction. It was about definition. That missile didn't just strike a target. It struck the illusion that Iran was powerless. It hit the narrative, not just the coordinates. That moment didn't make Iran violent. It made Iran visible. It didn't make Iran feared. It made Iran heard. Because sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, when you are unheard for too long, you don't whisper, you roar. That missile changed geopolitics, yes, but more than that, it changed perception. It forced even the most powerful to pause and reconsider, to realize that Iran was not a pushover. It was a presence. You see, power is never just about weapons. It's about willpower. You can take away someone's economy, isolate them from allies, freeze their assets, but you can never freeze their spirit. And Iran's spirit, it flew with that missile. A spirit that says, you can try to silence me, but I will speak. You can try to stop me, but I will rise. You can try to break me, but I am unbreakable. And isn't that true for all of us? We all have our own missiles, to launch not of war, but of worth, moments when we say enough, moments when we stop hiding, stop shrinking, stop waiting for permission to exist loudly. That missile was Iran's moment, a turning point, a line in the sand. So no, it wasn't just one missile. It was a mirror reflecting a nation's pride, reflecting a people's strength, reflecting to the world, we are here. We matter, and we will not kneel, and maybe, just maybe, that is what real superpower looks like. Not just the power to strike, but the power to stand. Thank you. Strength is not in size, but in significance. We live in a world that is obsessed with appearances. Bigger is better, louder is stronger, taller, faster, richer. These have become the metrics by which we measure power. But true strength has never been about how much you have. It's always been about what you do with what you have. It's about the impact, the influence, the meaning behind the action, not the magnitude of it. A small voice with truth in it can echo louder than 1,000 empty shouts. A single act of courage can outshine 1,000,000 moments of silent compliance. One missile, one message, one moment can change how the world sees a nation, a person, an idea. Think of the mountains. They are massive, majestic, unmoving. Yet it is the small seed that breaks through the soil, defies gravity, and grows into a tree that reminds us that significance lies in growth, not in grandness. Power without purpose is just noise. But even a whisper can shift tides when it comes from a place of deep conviction. History is full of stories where giants fell and the underestimated rose, where the few stood against the many, and where size didn't determine the winner. Spirit did. In your own life, there will be times when you feel small, when the world tells you you're not enough, that you don't have what it takes, that your voice doesn't matter, that you're not strong because you don't have the biggest platform, the loudest microphone, or the most powerful allies. But in those moments, I urge you to remember this: strength is not in size. It's in what you choose to do with the little you have. It's in the decision to speak when silence is expected, to rise when staying down would be easier, to forgive when anger feels more justified. It is in choosing to believe in your worth when the world tries to discount it. You don't have to move mountains to prove you're strong. Sometimes just standing your ground is a victory. Sometimes just waking up and trying again after being knocked down is the loudest roar of strength the world will ever hear. Strength is not about overpowering others. It's about overcoming yourself, your fears, your doubts, your insecurities. It's about choosing dignity when disrespect is thrown your way. It's about choosing grace in the face of chaos. It's about significance, not size. Look at those who have changed the world. Not all were kings or conquerors. Many were poets, prophets, teachers, mothers, freedom fighters, children with dreams. They weren't strong because of what they had. They were strong because of what they believed. Their lives mattered not because they had legions behind them, but because their actions echoed beyond them. They didn't wait to be powerful to make a difference. They acted, and that's what made them powerful. We often think we need to become more, have more, gain more in order to be strong. But real strength is revealed not when we rise on top of the world, but when we rise from the depths of our pain. When we carry our scars like medals, when we transform our wounds into wisdom, when we take the weight of what tried to break us and turn it into wings. In the world of politics, diplomacy, and war, strength is paraded in numbers, in weapons, in strategies. But one well-placed move, one meaningful stand, one bold act of courage can shift the balance of power. One missile can be ignored when measured in steel, but it becomes impossible to ignore when measured in symbolism. It becomes significant because it redefines identity. It becomes a message, not just a machine, and that is how true strength works. It's not about making the biggest noise. It's about sending the clearest signal. So when you walk into a room and feel invisible, remind yourself, your significance does not depend on how many notice you. It depends on how deeply you stay true to who you are. When you make a choice to stand for something, even when it's unpopular, even when you're the only one standing, that is strength. When you hold onto your integrity in a world that trades it for convenience, that is strength. You might feel small, but you are mighty. Your value isn't in how big your voice is. It's in how honest, how brave, how necessary it is. Because in the end, what will be remembered is not how loud we were, but how deeply we touched the hearts of others. Not how much we conquered, but how meaningfully we stood. Not how big we were, but how significant we dared to be. Sometimes it takes just one moment to change how the world sees you, and how you see yourself. This isn't just a line. It's a reminder of how powerful a single act can be. For Iran, that one missile wasn't just a display of military capability. It was a declaration of self-worth. A declaration that said, we are not invisible, and we are not afraid to define our own place in the world. We live in a time when narratives shape reality. The way the world sees you can impact everything, from how you're treated to how your voice is heard. But the more important transformation happens within how you see yourself. That one moment, that one bold act, that one missile, it did not change geography, but it shifted perception. It forced both the world and Iran itself to reassess what power really means, and that's where the beauty of significance comes in. It's not about how often you rise or how big your voice is. It's about why you rise. It's about what you stand for when you take a stand. Iran's missile was more than just technology or strategy. It was a symbol of resistance, of pride, of identity. It was a moment that said, we will not be forgotten, we will not be dismissed. This is not just Iran's story, it's a human story. Every one of us has that moment within us, that turning point, that line in the sand, and it may come in silence, not with a boom. It may not shake cities, but it will shake you. And when it does, it changes everything. Because you will stop waiting for the world to see your worth, you'll start living it. One moment. That's all it takes to step out of the shadows of fear and into the light of courage. One moment to say, I am no longer who I was yesterday. One moment to reclaim your voice, your identity, your future. Iran's transformation wasn't about becoming a superpower in the traditional sense. It was about redefining power itself. That missile didn't just cross borders. It crossed mental boundaries. It made the world stop and reconsider, and it reminded an entire nation that even after being pushed into the corner, you still have the right to stand up, and the strength to do it with meaning. So whether you are a nation, a person, a voice among many, remember this. Your power is not in how many see you, but in what they see when they do. Let your actions carry purpose. Let your silence carry strength. And when your moment comes, may it be the moment that changes not just how the world sees you, but how you begin to see yourself. That, right there, is the beginning of real transformation. That is how history is made, not always by armies, not always by leaders, but sometimes just by one moment.